So, good day everyone. I am Najib A. Abdul Latif, and our topic is about Convention and the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, CMS, and International Plant Protection Convention. So, before I go to the discussion, let us discuss about the convention on the conservation. So when we say what is the convention on biodiversity or with this species, so convention on biodiversity means the conservation of biological diversity, sustainable use of its components, and the fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from genetic resources. So, itong convention on biodiversity is that how it will conserve the different biological diversity of the species and how are going to sustainably use its components and the fair and equal sharing of benefits arising from a certain resources. So its objective is to develop national strategies for the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity, and it is often seized as the key document regarding sustainable development. So let's move to the migratory species. So what is the meaning of migratory species? So let us tackle about the migratory. So migratory is from the word migration. Migration is the seasonal movement of animals from one habitat to another in search of food, better conditions, or reproductive needs. So, kumbaga, ang pinaka-summary nito is that ang focus ng convention nito is yung pag-conserve ng mga migratory species of wild animals na naga-transfer from one habitat to another. So, Convention on Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. So, as an environmental treaty of the United Nations, CMS provides a global platform for the conservation and sustainable use of migratory animals and their habitats. CMS brings together the states through which migratory animals pass, the range states, and lays the legal foundation for internationally coordinated conservation measures throughout a migratory range. So, itong CMS it provides global platform for the conservation and sustainable use of migratory animals with their specific habitats. So it brings together the different countries or states which migratory animals pass, or yung mga species or mga animals na nagpapass through from one country to another, with their range states and their legal foundation for internationally coordinated conservation measures throughout a migratory range. So, as the only global convention specializing in the conservation of migratory species, their habitats and migration routes, CMS complements and cooperates with several other international organizations, the NGOs and partners in the media, as well as in the corporate sector. So, itong CMS is that it specializes the conservation of migratory species, their habitats, and their migration routes. So, migratory species threatened with extinction are listed on Appendix 1 of the Convention. CMS parties strive towards strictly protecting these animals, conserving or restoring the places where they live, mitigating obstacles to migration, and controlling other factors that might endanger them. So, ang focus nitong CMS is that it protects the animals that migrate from other country to another country to conserve, and they restore the place where that certain species live. They also mitigate obstacles to migration, and they control other factors that might endanger that certain species. So, migratory species that need or would significantly benefit from international cooperation are listed in Appendix 2. So, for this reason, the convention encourages the range states to conclude global or regional agreements. So, yung convention na ito or yung CMS encourages yung mga states or country which there are cases na nag-migrate yung mga other species to conclude global or to have these agreements. So in this respect, CMS acts as a framework convention. The agreements may range from legally binding treaties called agreements to less formal instruments such as memoranda of understanding and can be adapted to the requirements of particular regions. So the development of models tailored according to the conservation needs throughout the migratory range is a unique capacity of CMS.
Assalamualaikum and good day to you, sir. My name is Shawi Imunib, and I'm going to discuss the Article 124 in Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. So the first one is Article 1, which is the interpretation. This text is explaining the terms and definition used in a convention that aims to conserve migratory species. A migratory species refers to any wild animal population or part of it that crosses national boundaries. Cyclically and predictably, the conservation status of a migratory species is the sum of factors affecting its long-term distribution and abundance, which should be favorable if the population maintains itself on a viable basis, has enough habitat, and approachable historic coverage levels consistent with wise wildlife management. If any of these conditions are not met, then the conservation status is considered unfavorable. An endangered migratory species means that it is in danger of extinction throughout all or most part of its range. Range refers to all areas where a migratory species lives temporarily or permanently during migration routes. Habitat includes any areas within this range suitable for living conditions. A range state refers to any state exercising jurisdiction over some part of the range where taking, hunting, fishing, capturing may occur outside national limits by flag vessels from other states. The agreement here means an international agreement relating to conservation one or more migratory species as provided for in Article 4 and 5 under this convention. Finally, parties refers either to sovereign states or regional economic integration organization competent in negotiating international agreements covered by this convention when it's enforced. If such organization exercise their competence within their own name regarding matters attributed by this convention to member states' rights or responsibilities individually, they cannot exercise this right individually but must do so through the organization instead. In summary, this text defines terms relating to conserving migratory animals across borders, while providing guidelines for determining favorable or unfavorable conservation statuses based on population dynamics data or habitat availability or wise wildlife management practices among others mentioned above. So the second one is the Article 2, which is the fundamental principles. This text talks about the importance of protecting migratory species, which are animals that move from one place to another at different times of the year. Parties involved in this agreement understand how crucial it is to conserve these species and agree to take action whenever possible. They also pay special attention to those migratory species whose conservation status is not good and take necessary steps individually or together with others to protect them and their habitat. Furthermore, the parties recognize that it's essential to prevent any migratory species from becoming endangered in the first place. This means taking measure before a situation becomes critical so that these animals can continue their natural migration patterns without being threatened by human activities or other factors. In summary, this text emphasizes how important it is for countries, range states to work together towards conserving migratory species and preventing them from becoming endangered. By doing so, we can ensure that these animals continue playing their role in our ecosystem while maintaining biodiversity for future generations. This text is talking about an agreement that countries can sign to help protect animals that migrate, or in other words, move from one place to another at different times of the year. The agreement has three parts. The first part says that countries should work together to do research on these animals. This will help us understand them better and figure out how we can help them. The second part says that if an animal is in danger of going extinct, countries should try to protect it in right away. This means they might make laws or rules to stop people from hunting or hurting the animals. The third part says that countries should try to make agreement with each other about how they will take care of these animals. These agreements will outline that what everyone needs to do so that animals stay safe and healthy during their migration. Overall, this agreement is trying to get different countries working together as we can all help protect this special animal as they travel around the world. So let's move on to the next article, which is the Article 3, Endangered Migratory Species, Appendix 1. The text outlines the guidelines for listing migratory species as endangered in Appendix 1. Reliable evidence, including scientific evidence, must indicate that a species is endangered for it to be listed. A species can be removed from the list if it is no longer endangered and is not likely to become so again. Range states of listed species must conserve and restore habitats, prevent obstacles to migration, and control factors endanger the species. Taking animals belonging to listed species is prohibited except for scientific purposes, enhancing propagation or survival, accommodating traditional subsistence users, or under extraordinary circumstances. The conference of the parties may recommend further measures to benefit the species. Parties must inform the Secretariat of any exceptions made regarding taking animals belonging to listed species. So the last one of my part is the Article 4, which is the migratory species to be the subject of agreements, Appendix 2. So the text outlines the guidelines for Appendix 2 of the Convention on Migratory Species. This appendix lists migratory species that require international agreements for their conservation and management due to their unfavorable conservation status, or those that will benefit from international cooperation. If necessary, a species can be listed in both Appendix 1 and 2. Range states of migratory species listed in Appendix 2 should prioritize concluding agreements to benefit those in a na unfavorable conservation status. Parties are recognized and encouraged to take action to conclude agreements for any population or geographically separate part of a species that crosses national boundaries. Finally, the Secretariat must be provided with a copy of each agreement concluded under this provision. So that's all for my part. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Nur Hasim T. Ramli. Today I'll be reporting the Article 5 to 8. The Article 5. The purpose of each agreement is to restore or maintain migratory species to a favorable conservation status. The agreement should cover the entire range of the species and be open to all range states, regardless of whether they are parties to the convention. Ideally, an agreement should address multiple species. Each agreement must identify covered species, describe their range and migration route, and establish a national authority for implementation. If necessary, appropriate machinery should be established to monitor effectiveness and prepare reports for the conference of the parties. Moving on to the Article 6. The Secretariat is responsible for maintaining an updated list of range states for migratory species listed in Appendices 1 and 2, using information provided by the parties. The parties must inform the Secretariat which by migratory species listed in Appendices 1 and 2 they consider themselves to be range states for, including information on their flag vessels engaged in taking the species outside national jurisdictional limits and future plans for such taking. Parties that are range states for migratory species listed in Appendix 1 or Appendix 2 should inform the conference of the parties through the Secretariat at least 6 months prior to each ordinary meeting of measures they are taking to implement provision of this convention for this species. Moving on to the Article 7. The Conference of the Parties is the decision-making body of the Convention. The Secretariat must call a meeting of the Conference of the Parties within 2 years of the Convention's entry into force. The Secretariat must then convene ordinary meetings at interval of no more than 3 years unless otherwise decided by the Conference, and extraordinary meetings upon written request from at least one-third of the parties. The Conference of the Parties is responsible for establishing and reviewing financial regulation, including adopting budget for each financial period. Each party must contribute to this budget according to a scale agreed upon by the Conference. Financial regulation, including provisions on budget and contributions, require unanimous vote from present and voting parties. At each meeting, the Conference of the Parties reviews implementation of the Convention and may review conservation status and progress towards conservation for migratory species listed in Appendices 1 and 2. The Conference may also provide guidance to enable Scientific Council and Secretariat duties, receive reports from various bodies established pursuant to an agreement, make recommendation for improving conservation status or effectiveness of this convention, decide on additional measures to implement convention objectives, or recommend meetings for range states to discuss measures for improving conservation status when an agreement has not been concluded. Moving on to the Article 8. The Conference of the Parties will establish a scientific council to provide scientific advice. Any part can appoint a qualified expert as a member of the council, and the council will also include experts selected by the Conference of the Parties. The Scientific Council will meet at the request of the Secretariat and establish its own rules of procedure with approval from the Conference of the Parties. The function of the Scientific Council include providing scientific advice, recommending research, and coordination. making recommendations for migratory species to be included in appendices 1 or 2, making recommendation for conservation and management measures in agreement on migratory species, and recommending solutions to scientific implementation problems related to migratory species habitats. And that's all for my part. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Jadid Abdul Fattah and I'm going to discuss the Article 9 and Article 10. Article 9, the Secretariat. A secretariat is an organization that helps to carry out and manage work of the Convention, the Executive Order of the United Nations Environment Programme will provide this secretariat when the convention comes out force, but the other agencies may also need assist as needed if the UN cannot continue providing these services. The alternative arrangement will made by the Conference of Parties. The function of the Secretariat including arrangement and meetings for both parties and scientist meetings, communication between different organizations involves with migratory species, gathering reports and information related to implementing this convention, preparing reports on its work and implementing, promoting agreements under direction from other conference of parties, publishing list of friend state for including species in appendices I 1 and 2, maintaining a list of agreements made under this convention if required by conference or parties decision making process. Overall, these tasks help ensure that countries are working together to protect migratory animals across borders. Article number 10. The convention refers to an agreement between different countries that they will work together on a particular issue. This text explains that any country involved in the convention can suggest changes to it, and the suggestion will be discussed at meeting of all the countries involving, called the Conference of the Parties. If someone wants to suggest a change, they need to send their proposal to the Secretariat, which is like an administrative office, at least 150 days before the meeting where it will be discussed. All other countries involved in the convention also need to receive this proposal promptly so they have time to think about it and provide comments if necessary. At least 60 days before the meeting starts, any comment from other countries must also be sent back to the Secretariat so that everyone has had a chance to share their thoughts to actually make a change. 2/3 of all countries present at one of these meetings needs to vote in favor of it. If enough people vote for it, then each country needs to accept this new amendment within 3 months after 2/3 of all parties agree with them. This text explain how changes are made within international agreements such as convention and treaties which involve multiple nations working together towards achieving specific goals or objectives. Overview. Since 2006, the convention has benefited from the support of honorary ambassador eminent personalities which known and respected for their work relating to wildlife conservation, who have helped promote to conserve migratory species and their habitat by enhancing the CMS family visibility, profile, and global reach. Ambassador program was redesigned and launched by February 2020 at the 13th meeting of the Conference of the Parties. Ambassadors are nominated by the CMS Executive Secretary every triennium to represent migratory species that run and swim and fly. Ambassadors can either be global celebrities who have experienced a desire to contribute to raising awareness of migratory species and the CMS family, or prominent individuals from conservation, science, literature, or other fields who can mobilize attention for specific issue or specific species. Ambassadors for migratory species are entrusted with promoting the goals of the CMS family through public advocacy, mobilizing resources for selected initiatives, participating in meetings and events, undertaking mission or target, approaches to influence decision maker and other stakeholders groups according to their specific skills and areas of all. That's all.
What is IPCC? The International Plant Protection Convention is the intergovernmental treaty established in 1951 to protect the world's plants, agricultural products, and natural resources from plant pests. The IPCC is ratified by 185 contracting parties that collaborate to develop and adopt and promote the application of international standards for the phytosanitary measures as the main tool to safeguard global security and facilitate safe trade and protect the environment. The convention and references organization dedicated to developing plant health standard. It is recognized as such and under convention also makes provision to contracting parties to develop standard related to standard places, packaging, conveniences, containers, soil, and any other organism. Object or material capable of harboring or spreading plant pests, particularly where the international transportation is involved. The IPCC is deposited with the Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. It is also known as FAO, and it is administered through the IPCC Secretariat. Since was established, the IPCC has been admitted twice, most recently in 1997. The governance and structure of the IPCC Commission or the Sanitary Measures CPM or the Commission is the IPCC main governing body responsible for promoting the achievement of the convention objectives. It is review the state of plant protection in the world and the action of control, the introduction and the spread of plant pests worldwide. The Commission establishes and reviews relevant institutional and arrangements and the procedure for the developing and adopting the international standard. It holds the annual session to review work progress of the CBP Bureau, IPPC subsidiary bodies, and IPCC Secretariat. So let's go to the CPM, subsidiary bodies. The Strategic Planning Group, also known as CP, provides strategic perspective to the work of the IPCC community and supports improvement through the provision of recommendation and advice to the PM on any issues referred to its issues as related to the function of the SPG. The Financial Committee (FC) advises on financial matters and resource mobilization, ensuring financial transparency, appropriateness of the financial decision, and their integration into the work of the IPCC Secretariat. The FC, which meets annually, have 5 members, including at least 1 member of the CBPM Bureau. The Standard Committee (SC) is responsible for the managing the development of the international standard for the sanitary measures and overseeing the standard setting process. The SC convenes at least once a year to review the revised draft of ISPM, monitor their development, ensure they are the consistent quality, and use the harmonized term agreeable by the contracting parties. It has 25 members from the Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Near East, North America, and Southwest Pacific, and observers. Development Community (IC) helps build the technical capacity of contracting parties to efficiently adopt the convention, standard, and PM recommendation. The IC has 40 members, including 7 regional representatives, 5 technical experts, and representative of the Regional Plant Protection Organization, RPPOS, and the representative of the IPCC Standards Community. The IC convenes twice a year to review the implementation of the work plan the IPCC Secretariat established in 1992 and hosted at the headquarters of the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, or also known as FAO, in Rome, Italy, implement the IPCC strategic framework and support the CPM, CPM Bureau, and subsidiary bodies.